Hey, Ivy, you've built a coaching business that helps creatives sell with confidence. Let's rewind for a bit. What was the first moment you realized that there was a need for what you do today?
That's such a good question. I probably would have to go back to when I was still employed around, I'm going to guess 2003, 2004, 2004 probably. And my friends, maybe 2005, I don't know, thinking now. My friends were all creatives. They were designers, graphic designers, or illustrators, and they're amazing. Like they were absolutely amazing. I was always in awe of how good they were, and they were working for free. And I'm like, wait, how are you master's educated and really talented working for free? And it frustrated me. So I think at that point I already knew that my friends needed help. My friends needed someone to, and I think it was a really bad energy in the beginning because it was like, protect them. My friends need protecting. My friends need saving. They need to be, you know, empowered to be able to charge more. And even though that energy was a little bit more on the saving side, I think that's when I knew already that this is how creatives are treated and it's not okay.
Okay, that's very nice that you seen it in your close environment and you were like, okay, I got to help them. That's really nice. I've checked your story. I think it's a quite interesting story. You've ran a restaurant as well. How was the pivot to running a restaurant to running a coaching business?
Yeah. So even though early on I saw the need for help for my friends, and I did help them, I literally was pretending to be their agent, or I negotiated on their part, or if they weren't getting paid, I would be the debt collector, so to speak, and say like, "Oh yeah, I'm calling on behalf of XYZ, and I just want to check when this invoice will be paid," because they were too shy and introverted to actually do anything about it. Like, "Oh, it's okay, they'll pay eventually." I'm like, "No, you've delivered the work." So instead of doing that work then, I actually had my own passions. When I was at university, I used to throw the best dinner parties ever. And we used to joke about me starting a cafe or a restaurant. And when I met my now husband, he and I were talking about dreams, just the same way that I talked about my dreams with my friends. But he asked me a different question than anybody else had ever asked me. He asked me, "Why haven't you done it yet?" And I'm just like, wow, everyone else dreams alongside with me. And he's asking me why I haven't done it. I'm like, why haven't I done it? Literally, that question blew my mind because I'm like, I cannot understand why I haven't done it. I have probably backing that I can have. I have the ideas, I have the skill set. I don't understand why I haven't. So I set off and wrote a business plan. I got funding for my first business from my parents who were business owners. So I did have to pitch to them properly and produce a business plan. And within 3 months I had the money, and within 9 months I got the lease. If anyone knows about finding a restaurant, finding a lease is incredibly difficult. And I did find something within 4 months. I lost that place, and then I got first refusal to take it on because the first people were not viable people. So that's how I started with a restaurant. And I did that for about 10 years, and I absolutely loved it. It was my playground, it was my canvas for creation and doing and inventing new ways of presenting food. And so when I got pregnant, I'm like, this is not the environment I want to have a child in. I knew that. It's unsociable hours, it's a lot of work. Even when I wasn't working in it, my mind was always switched on. So I came to the point where I was just chatting to my friends. I'm like, oh, what do I do now? Like the world is my oyster. I've sold my businesses, I've sold the premises, and I have money. What next? And they're like,
Mm.
well, you should do what you did with us. I'm like, what did I do with you? Like, you helped us make more money. I'm like, oh, yeah, I did. Of course I did. And and so it began. I'm like, oh, is this a career? Is this a business that I haven't thought of? And that's how it started. So I'm like, oh,
That's
there's something
nice.
called coaching.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny to see how you started helping out your friends, and then when you needed them, they helped you out with saying like, "Hey, you should do this." That's really cool. Many people want to become a full-time coach, but they're struggling with taking that leap successfully. Did you ever have a moment where you hesitated or doubted your ability to turn this into a full-time business?
Never. And I think I'm an annoying person to ask this question because I don't have the doubts. When I set my when I set my mind to do something, I see the pathway and I just go for it. And for me, if I don't make it, it doesn't even matter. So there's no doubt that it will succeed. And if it doesn't succeed, I just have a gazillion different ways to try to make it succeed. Eh, I don't see the obstacles. I see the destination and I just walk towards that destination. I see the pathway. And I don't think everyone thinks like me. I don't know because I haven't spoken to enough people, but I can feel guilt over having that kind of mindset because I see other people struggling. They're like, "Oh, but what if, what if, what if?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but that doesn't matter. The what ifs don't matter." I've been asked this question before, like when you started your restaurant, were you afraid of failing? I'm like, no, like literally it wasn't an option. Not like in the sense of like I'm not allowed to fail, but I'm like, if I'm doing something, I'm not setting out to fail. I'm setting out to succeed. So the way that I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do is with the intention of making it a success. Now, will it make a million? Will it make 10 million? Will it make a billion? I don't know. That isn't the intention. The money isn't the intention. Will I own my restaurant? Will I have several? Yes, I did. Will I have a successful coaching business? Yes, in my eyes, I have a very successful coaching business. Is it as successful as some of the other coaches out there? No. Am I happy? Yes. So I'm on my path, not on anyone else's. And I think that's the most important part, just knowing where you need to get to. Does that answer your question?
Definitely, definitely. It's nice to see the switch from not doubting because you're just on your own path and you decide for yourself like, okay, this is how I envision success. And I think a lot of the doubting and the insecurities, if I speak for myself, come from comparing myself to others in my space who are ahead of me, and I think that's something that I need to remember myself as well. So thank you for that. Now, obviously, if you set your mind to it, you can do it, but inevitably there are going to be hurdles.
Yeah.
And one of the first hurdles when starting a business is, how did you find your first paying clients?
Let me go back a bit. I have to think on how I got my first paying client. So I think my pathway to getting the business that I have right now was a little bit convoluted. So I didn't need, I was in a secure place, right? Because I had money already. So I wasn't needing money or needing clients. Now, even if you didn't sell a business before and you wanted to transition into coaching, you still don't need clients. You can set yourself up to not need clients. And the way that I would do that if I were doing things differently would be to create a buffer. Like I would want to have a reserve to which it would give me 3 to 4 months to try out my business without having the need, because need makes us act differently. It makes us demand things that aren't reasonable. So I was in a very secure position, and I first built the business with a business partner. And I know I did that from a place of saving someone again. I have this bad habit of wanting to save people. So it's that's like my flaw is that. And in so doing, I not adhered, let me choose another word. I then adopted her money mindset. Now, I was a skilled business person at that point. I've already had over 10 years experience in business and starting and failing at different businesses, which we normally don't talk about. Like I've tried many different businesses before. my first business was a success, so I assumed my second business would be a success, third business would be a success. And that's when people say like, oh, success can actually be a really poor teacher. Anyhow, so as I was building my business with my business partner, the one thing that became problematic for us was her inability to want to charge as much as I would want to. So we had a dissonance between price. I'm like, I'm super skilled. I know what I'm doing. And she was like, I'm really smart, but I don't know if I feel like I'm valued at that level. So it pulled us both down by a lot. And that mindset in itself meant that it took a really long time for us both to get paying clients. So the one thing that we were creating from the start, because I had another business before, I had my Ivy Malik coaching business. The one thing that we were doing during that time was creating a marketing funnel that is in a digital space that would allow people to find us and convert. And it was really, really difficult. And I do believe that it was our positioning that changed everything. The moment I split up from her, very amicable. We had a prenup. So it was really, really easy to split up. It was one month of discomfort, and then it was fine. When I split up from her, it took me 30 days to get my first paying client at 1,500. It didn't take long. And the way that I did that was tapping into my own community that I had created. And I think people forget that people near you, like I had a business before, they already knew that I was doing business. All I needed to say was like, hey, who needs help? Essentially, within 30 days, if I remember correctly, I did that. But I do remember also working for free. I wanted to test out if I wanted to coach and if I could. Because also, I wasn't certified. I didn't know what coaching really meant. Could I support someone? I was in a paid community for some well-being thing, and I just put it out there and said, hey, if anyone wants some help with their business, I'm happy to give them a free session. And I did work with two different people to kind of, and I was only one off, to kind of see what it would be like to be in a space where I'm providing advice.
Mm.
So I did do free work before I actually got paid work. Yeah, long
Yeah.
story, but
No,
some
that's
background.
that's perfectly fine. How do you feel about doing free work now? Now, obviously not at the point where you are in your business, but let's say you have to start over. Is that a path that you would take, or would you try and do it differently?
You know, I released something. I don't know when you'll release this podcast, but I released something on my stories literally yesterday saying that by the end of this year, I might start a new business. And I might actually stop coaching because I have this idea. And who knows, maybe I won't do it. Maybe this will come out and go, Ivy, what did you do? I'm like, no, I never did it. And that's okay. And if I think about, I can't talk about that concept. If I think about that concept, I would probably not do anything for free. I would not feel the need to do anything for free. But I might do it for less. I might create something as I get paid for it. I don't think free is necessary. But I think everyone also needs to look at my business as it is right now. I do a lot of things free, a lot. This podcast is free. This is my time. I create content every day. It takes me a lot of time to create content that not sometimes a lot of people see and sometimes nobody sees. I also am creating my own podcast that is free. I am speaking to people on a regular basis for market research and sales calls. That is free. I don't charge for my sales calls. I also do IG Lives. I give advice for free. I run workshops for free. I do a lot of free work. And there are reasons I do free things. One, it gives me visibility. It pays me back in dividends that are really massive. And secondly, I'm able to help those that will never be able to afford me. I know what I charge for my coaching, it's high. For the creative field, it is high. For coaching, it's just normal. But I still want to help. If I could do everything for free, I would do it for free. I love what I do. And I don't frown upon it being for free. But if you're going to enter a relationship with me and demand my attention, that is not for free. And not demand in a negative way, but if you're wanting my eyes on your business and wanting to create change, then that will cost. But if I go out there and say, hey, I want to help you, I want you to ask me for the help. Like if I say I'm doing an IG live and I want to help 10 businesses during this hour, I'll do it. And I have no problems doing it. So
Yeah.
how you view free matters. So I have my boundaries.
Yeah, I think those are interesting boundaries. Obviously, you create a lot of content, a lot of valuable content. Otherwise, nobody will interact or nobody will see it.
Mhm.
How do you find the line between giving away really valuable stuff where they can actually do something with, but also, I don't want to say gatekeeping, but there's obviously a reason why they should want to pay you to work with you,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't gatekeep. And my clients will know because they will see the things that I share with them also in the public domain. What you gain by working with someone is speed, at least with me. You don't have to sift through hundreds and thousands of content pieces that I've created that show one aspect of the problem. I always say that one content piece is only, when people get agitated that you say something, I'm like, yeah, that's one piece that I'm talking about. And there are 100 pieces that fit around it. My clients get the 100 pieces that fit around it in one go. And it's an individualized approach. So what you see that is free is often generic. It can't be specific to you. It might be specific to you if you're that person that we've generated the content for. But let's say I usually work with, when I create my content, I do it for designers, so web designers, graphic designers. Um, I don't do it for photographers. I attract a lot of photographers, and I attract lots of coaches that want to work with me and have a business like mine, and healers. I attract lots of healers. So when they see the content piece, the designers will feel seen, but it'll feel more generic to a coach because they're like, oh, I get the concept. But when I start talking about kerning or, I don't know, leading, or if I was dealing with photographers, I talk about lenses and usage rights, or illustrators will feel similar with the usage rights or licensing. The moment it becomes really, really specific, people feel seen. So you're collapsing time by working with a coach because it'll be specific to you each time. At least when you work with me, other coaches work differently. You can literally get a strategy for free. You don't need a coach for the strategy. You need a coach to feel aligned with your decision. You question yourself. You are overthinking. You're feeling unsure. And a strategy, there's so many strategies out there. How do you know it's the right strategy for you? You get to talk to a coach and get to figure that out. And you can work on what feels right for you. And that's what the coach does.
Yeah, I recognize that. Like, I work together with a coach as well to, I don't want to say fix my mindset, but sometimes I have these weird roads my mind take. And oftentimes when we are chatting and he says something, and I'm like, yeah, I know that, I have heard that, I have read that, but I didn't understand it in my perspective, or I couldn't see it in the way that I now see it. And I think that's the power of working together
Mm.
with the coach, because obviously in a world where everybody shares his or her content, you have all the answers. And I truly believe all the answers are inside of you. It's just like getting them out of you. So yeah, I wanted to share that because that's really cool to see that you take the same approach. What was the hardest part? Because I think it's so interesting that you had other businesses before starting this coaching business. What was the hardest part of transitioning from running a restaurant to selling your knowledge and your expertise?
That's a really good question. And it was hard. The hard part was that I expected. If you've been running a business, so I was running a business, I had a team working for me, not just it was a restaurant, so not just in the restaurant, but I had people in the office. I had an assistant, I had a PA, I had people in the office, I had the managers. So like it was a decent operation. I did not need to lift a finger or my thinking at all. I actually didn't. And a lot of people thought that I was just selling my golden goose. And it was a golden goose because I didn't sell because I had to. I sold at my peak. And it was a thing that I told myself that I will do. No one will ever force me to sell. Business goes up and down. So I had ups and I had downs. Like it's normal. But I sold at my highest high. And people were like, "Are you mad?" I'm like, "No, I'm not mad. I am amazing. Like, watch me make this a success too." And then I went into the new business thinking that my expertise of running a business were so solid that I'd be able to make a success of my first business immediately. I'm like, I got this. I have money that I can just throw on a problem and I will fix it. And I did. I did throw money at the problem. I ended up in a coaching program, which I learned a lot from because I saw this funnel. They're like, yeah, you can make 10K months in 90 days. I'm like, great. I want that. 10K months in 90 days. Bring it on. And I did a lot of research. I'm like, and I felt really nervous about making the investment. And my business partner didn't want to do it. I'm like, look, you don't have to spend the money. I'll spend the money. I've got money. Like, I'll do it. And I spent the money. And we were in this program for like a whole year, and we did not make back. We did not make back our investment. I mean, it was so humbling for me to learn that having a bricks and mortar business is different from a digital marketing business or digital business that relies on digital marketing. Because you know what I had done when I was at the restaurant? I I I had an Instagram account, I had Twitter, I had Facebook, but I never ever used it ever. I'm like, you young people, you do it. I had like, 20-year-olds who were in the know. I'm like, you tweet for me. You take care of the channel. Didn't have a personal brand in the 10 years that I had my restaurants. You know that I was asked to be on TV in news programs. I was asked on different huge newspapers, The Times, The Guardian, Elle, Vogue. I was asked and I said no to many of them because I was like, no, no, not me. I could have built a personal brand and I didn't. So now I'm like moving into the digital era and I have no idea how to market myself because now I was marketing me or us at that time. And I'm like, whoa, I need to be in the limelight. I need to speak. I used to send my staff. I'm like, you go. Who wants to be on TV? I used to say, like, someone needs to be interviewed. Who wants to be interviewed? And I'd send someone else in my stead. That was really, really difficult. The transition from bricks and mortar into the digital space. And it was a huge learning curve for me. Huge and humbling.
Can imagine. I can imagine that's like two opposite
Yeah.
worlds, and then you enter the other world, and you must be thinking like, "Holy shit, what do I do now?"
Yeah.
Uh, but I think the nice part of seeing you build your personal brand, even though you have had many opportunities in the past, but you still made it work. So that's really inspiring to see that if you've missed some opportunities, that doesn't matter, that it won't, then you do not have the power to ultimately fix it. Let's dive a little bit deeper into your content strategy. I like the fact that you've opted in a program where the USP was make 10K months in 90 days. I love the fact that you don't make those claims because I despise them. um, let's take us into your content strategy. Where do you start? How do you get your content? What's your favorite way of formatting? And what have you seen that works and do not work for you?
Before we go into the content strategy, I kind of want to go back into the personal branding a little bit because that's going to link to this.
Mm-hmm.
The In order for me to be okay with being the face of my business, I needed to do a lot of self-work. So in 2015, I was extremely depressed. So much so that I actually did want to end my life. And you know what? My business was at the highest level. It was doing really, really well. Like it was one of the highest that I was having. It was external recognition, validation, money. I was traveling the world. Like life was good, but I did not feel good. I felt empty. I felt like I was in a dark cave. It was really difficult for my boyfriend at the time. We hadn't married yet. And he was just like, "You don't even want to live for me." I'm like, "No, I don't want to live for anyone. Like, I wanted to die." And it was incredibly difficult. And during that time, I was trying to figure out how to help myself because I knew that I didn't, like, deep down inside, I knew that I didn't, but that feeling wouldn't go away. That feeling of like, it'd just be easier if I was gone. That wouldn't go away. And traditional therapy wasn't helping. Um, and one of my friends was like, "Well, I'm going to go to a meditation. Why don't you come and join?" I'm like, "Okay, I've never meditated in my life. Fine." It was a it was a thing that was in a communal meditation type thing. And I couldn't last 5 minutes. I just started like I was about to break down crying. And then that person said, "Why don't you just meet me privately?" That was my journey that stepped into the spiritual realm. I didn't know who she was. She was an emotional healer, apparently. And I was just like, I don't care. I just want to be better. Just whatever. And she's actually, her name is Jodie Shield or Shields. I always forget if it's an S or not. She's actually the first person that actually helped me through my depression. And I don't know if she knows this or not. And it was also my entry point to like, oh, there's another world out there that's a little bit different, um, that isn't religious, but has a spiritual side to it. And that was my entry to the spiritual. And my one leg has always been in the sciences. But since 2015 and up until now, I've just been working on myself. I'm like, I need to have self-love. I need to accept who I am. I need to work on myself. And you wouldn't see someone who was self-loathing if you were to look at me 2, 3 years ago. You wouldn't see that. But that's how I looked at myself. I have always been really confident with my business. It is my comfort zone. I'm good at it. This is how I define myself. Like business, that's me. But Ivy, the person, self-loathing. I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm not lovable. Really horrible things you can say about yourself. And that's been my journey for all of this time. And I can safely say that the culmination of all the work that I've done so far, I can tell you that I love myself now. I accept who I am. And I am energetically in a really amazing space. In 2015, I resolved my suicidal issues, and that was gone. And the reason I mention this is because I think in order for us to have good marketing in today's age and to be able to reach people and connect to them, we need to know ourselves. And it starts with you. Who are you? What do you stand for? And I don't mean it from a marketing perspective. I really mean like who are you? What do you want? That's the question I ask all my clients all the time. What do you want? They say, "What do you think I should do for this?" I'm like, "What do you want?" And then let's go from there and then we'll tackle it. That is my content strategy. Number one, start with yourself, because if you're aligned with who you are, you're going to be able to connect and to convert, because ultimately people want that. So if we're going to do you have any questions so far? Because I can go into the content part now.
You can go ahead.
Okay. So when it comes to the content strategy, I'm not a person that you will see growing rapidly because I don't adhere to trends. I don't do mainstream things. I'm like, screw that. I'm just going to run my own rodeo and see what happens. But what I never have a problem with is conversion. So I know how to create content that sells. I don't know how to create content that goes viral. Like I'm the wrong person for that. And ultimately it is because I show my vulnerability. And I've been told that I'm guarded in my content. So, and I actually asked, and I communicate with my audience. So I asked my audience, I'm like, "Oh, I just got some feedback that have an unapproachable authority. But when people know me, they know that I'm really approachable. So, what do you think? I got like 100 messages of people. Some of them said like, yeah, I find you cold. And some of them like, oh my gosh, who are these people? Of course you're not cold. You're the warmest person I know. You're the most generous person I know. Like everything in between. And and that's the important part. You don't know how people perceive you unless you ask them. So you want to create a dialogue with the people that you're wanting to communicate with. And in order to create that dialogue, you need to understand who you are here for. And when you know who you are here for, you're able to create content for them that is actually going to help them. And I don't mean just because I have a mix of different types of content pieces, but ultimately, a majority of the content will actually be actionable. So, what can someone do with this content piece that is actually going to help them? And that gains trust. And then when they feel ready, they will then reach out to you and say, I need this. But they're different buyer types. So sometimes you need to actually point them in the direction and say, I'm actually wanting to work with a certain type of person. If this is you, reach out to me and let's see what we can do. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's really valuable. That's way more valuable than saying I post 5 times a week, a reel, a carousel. No, it's really, and I believe that as well. It's all about trust. I try to do that with I have like solo episodes on YouTube where I just chat about how my business is going or not going. It doesn't have the purpose to sell on somebody, but it's just to create a connection.
Mm.
And I think when you can do that, people are way easier to convert. How do you, so you call them out occasionally. How do you take it from the call out to eventually becoming a client?
Yeah. Normally, people will have to jump on a sales call with me. The sales call is either a clarity call, an audit, or a discovery call, or a road mapping call. And I'm particularly careful in how I sell because I have a natural persuasive way of being, and I know that I can get people to do whatever I want, which just sounds really cocky, but I am really mindful of that. So knowing that I have that ability, I need to be really mindful of how I am on the call. And I have a really clear conversation. I start off by saying, by the end of this, we're going to see whether we're going to work together or not. So it's really open, really clear. And then I just have a conversation to find out if I actually can be the person that can help them through whatever challenge they have. And if I am, I will propose that we work together, and then it's up to them. And one of the reasons I'm extra careful about how I sell is because I never want anyone to feel pushed into working with me. It has to be a choice that they're making. And it's so easy to actually have a conversation where people can feel they must do this. Like having that kind of persuasive power, first of all, with the charisma that you would already have, plus using some psychological tools, it's easy to convert people. So I need to be really careful that I haven't done that so that they can make the conscious choice of whether they want to work with me or not. And I say no so many times because I've worked with people in the past that weren't the right fit, and it's just an energy drain. I'm like, I'm not here for that. I'm not. My container is intense in the sense that I'm available for as much as you need me. And uh, I know how difficult it is for me to put up my boundaries. No, not put up the boundaries, but assert the boundaries, which means that I price accordingly. So my pricing is more on the premium side. So if you wanted to work with me, it's a 9K minimum over 6 months in a group, which is higher end. Then people usually decide then, or they will make up their mind later, but they need to have received an invitation from me. If they haven't received an invitation, they can't work with me.
No. Okay, nice. Do you have like systems in place to make the road from becoming a lead to sales call to eventually client more efficient?
Um, I've tested a lot of different systems and I've learned a lot of different systems. I'm always consuming what other people are doing so that I can figure out what system would suit me and what systems would be suitable for my clients, because not everyone is like me. And I find that the simplest system that works for me is the one that is based on connection, which means that I will literally go on stories and say like, hey, I'm opening up some spots. Who wants to work with me? And I'm really straightforward in my ask, or in my invitation. It's not even an ask. And then I check whether they want to be working with me, and then they get onboarded once I send them the invitation with the link, and that's it. That system works for me. There are other systems that you can implement that I've tested, which don't work for me really well, which work really well for some of my clients. So once they're in your sphere, you can have a series of emails that keep warming them up so that they want to call you, so that they want to book a call with you. And it would be a series of value giving emails. I actually have the system running right now. I'm testing it out again on a freebie. So value giving emails alongside testimonials to encourage people to book. And the trouble with these kind of systems are that your messaging needs to be really, really clear. So your top of funnel messaging needs to be incredibly clear so that the right people come through the funnel. Because if your email sequence to nurture them to actually book a call is going to be effective, it will bring, if the top of funnel is off, it will only convert the crappy people. You want to have high quality people coming through. And then, wait, is this the system that you were talking about? Yeah, okay, great. Uh, I experiment with different lead magnets, whether that is a freebie, whether that is a workshop, but I find that my content marketing is the highest performing lead magnet by far. Oh, and webinars. Webinars work well for me as well. It's trust
Yeah.
building. So I often don't sell on webinars. I'll have it as a trust building thing. I want people to know how I am, how I operate, so there's no shock. And I advise people to show a little bit more of themselves so that they can connect with you. And when they realize, oh, she's ordinary and human too, I get that. And she has a business that actually works brilliant. I'll want to work with that person. And that's how you
Yeah.
actually can break down that barrier.
That's cool. Webinar funnels are really great
Mhm.
to build that trust, and you have different ways of doing it. I like the fact that you're not selling directly in it, because sometimes you opt in for a webinar and you have a 10-minute introduction on why somebody is the best person ever and he or she needs to help you, and then 40 minutes of explaining the product that they want to sell you. So I think that's a really nice approach of you. You have three different products: the Flight Club, Winner Circle, and private
Yeah.
coaching. What makes them different, and how do you decide like person A is perfect for example the Winner Circle, person B for private coaching?
Yeah. Private coaching, I only take 4 clients a year, 4 or 5, depending on frequency of the clients. The person who wants, it's kind of money dependent. I charge 24K for 6 months for private coaching. So the number of people who can afford that automatically, reduce. Sometimes it takes about a year for people to convert into that. I sometimes meet people in January, and then in December they're like, I'm ready. I'm like, oh, I didn't think that we're going to work together, but okay. People need a plan. It's a big investment. And I take about 4 people a year for that because it's a heavy commitment on my part as well. So, and that doesn't mean I'm doing more. It's just an energetic investment that is higher on my part. For that, we really need to like each other. It's a dual exchange of energies. So they need to want what I can help them with, which normally isn't scaling. That's normally working on their mindset. They're wanting to step into the CEO shoes. They're wanting to grow their business, but they already are making money, right? If you're spending that kind of money, you're already in multiple six figures. Although I've had people who aren't in multiple six figures still actually sign up for that, and it takes them to multiple six figures. it really depends on the risk level that they have. So the private coaching is a high energy investment. They're actually the people who call me the least and text me the least. Really interesting. They pay the most, they contact me the least. But they're busy, right? So why would they be chatting to me when they can actually be doing the work they're supposed to be doing? Then I have the winner circle, and the winner circle is the full business. It's kind of like private coaching, but in a group. So I meet everyone, it's hybrid. I meet everyone individually as well as in a group. And it's the way that I can scale my business, but I limit it to 20 people in that group. It's your pricing, positioning, marketing, mindset, anything goes. There is no limit. Then we have Flight Club. Flight Club is just sales. And I'm not talking about marketing and sales, it's just sales. It's from the point that someone says, I'm interested in working with you. It does cover pricing and offer because I believe that's part of sales. So pricing and the offer and how to have the sales conversations, how to ask questions, how to handle objections, anything. And whether that's in a DM, an email, or as well as proposals, email, DM, or in an actual voice conversation. That's what Flight Club is. So it's really easy for me to kind of go, oh, you don't have a marketing problem or positioning problem. You just need some help in sales. That's Flight Club. And if you need anything beyond that, it's everything else. And then I decide whether it's a group or private.
Yeah. Okay. And do they reach out sometimes like I need, for example, to be part of a winner's circle, but they actually do not really need that? What do you do in that situation?
Oh, if they don't need the winner circle, they don't get the winner circle.
Mm.
Sometimes I've had people go like, but I really want this. I'm like, but it's not right for you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need the winner circle. And they're like, oh, can I have a one-off with you? And I don't do one-offs either. So I will refer them to other people. I have great coaches that I know that have either have worked with me that I trust because I then know exactly how they operate, or that are friends of mine that I would refer them to. So I have a referral system, not in terms of like a reward system that I get kickback from, but I have a system of people that I know that I trust that I would be happy to refer people to. But I've only recently put the winner circle on my website. It never used to be there. Or maybe sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's just one of those things that you only find out about if I talk about it.
Okay.
It's only got 20 spaces in it, so it does fill up. And sometimes I don't
Yeah.
even invite people in. Sometimes it'll go 6 months and I'm like, no, I'm really happy with the group, and then I'll open it up. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the freedom that owning a business
Yeah.
can give you. That's the same reason why you want to work with people who you like and who you feel a connection with, because otherwise, why would you do it? Okay, amazing. If somebody wants to hop on a call with you for the Flight Club, for the Winner Circle, or the private coaching, where can they find you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. So it's my name on every social platform. And just say that you were on this podcast. Let me know that you listened to it, then I'll know what you're talking about. My coaching business changes all the time, so don't hold me to anything you've heard here. I am forever evolving, but normally I don't take calls for Flight Club. It's an easier access. It's an accessible program. But the winner circle and private coaching, you definitely would have to meet me. So just talk to me. I'm
Mm,
easy to talk to.
okay, amazing. Thank you very much for your time, Ivy.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for asking such wonderful questions and having me on your podcast. Thank you.